Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Mysteries from Beyond the Other Dominion. I'm your host, Dr. Franklin Ruehl, and today we're going to investigate the deadly curse of the Iceman, ask if planet Earth one day will become Iceball Earth, and tell you secrets about this critter right here, the Chasmosaurus, and critique the 1973 horror film, The Theater of Blood, starring Vincent Price and Diana Rigg, and cover other intriguing subjects, time, of course, permitting. But first, the deadly curse of the Iceman. Now, back in 1991, in the Alps in northern Italy, Otzi, the so-called Iceman, was discovered entombed in a cave. Now, it has been estimated that he is 5,300 years old, a Stone Age man who is actually very well equipped. He's actually the oldest frozen mummy that we've discovered on Earth, and he had fur coats, he had an axe, bow and arrow, knife, and even a medicinal kit consisting of herbs. Amazing for someone who's 5,300 years old, dating back to 3,300 BC. And he's been extensively analyzed and is now on display in Bolzano, northern Italy. However, since his discovery, at least 6 individuals associated with his discovery have died mysterious deaths. And one asks if there's possibly a curse involved, similar to that attributed to King Tut after his recovery from his tomb. Now, the first man to die was the very first man to actually touch the body of Otzi, and that was Dr. Rainer Henn. After analyzing the body for several weeks, he was on his way to a seminar to disclose his findings and was killed in a tragic automobile accident. The next man to die was none other than Kurt Fritz, a guide who actually put Otzi aboard the helicopter for his trip from northern Italy into Innsbruck, Germany. He was on a hiking excursion with several men. An avalanche suddenly started up. He was the only man killed. The other members of his party totally unscathed. The third man to die, Rainer Hoytz, a videographer for a news company who videotaped the entire discovery and unloading of Otzi. He died at a very young age of an unexpected brain tumor. The fourth man to die was Helmut Simon, the tourist who actually discovered Otzi's body. And he'd been disgruntled over the years because he never got any recompense for his discovery. Last September, while he was skiing in that same area, he fell off a cliff, tumbled down 300 feet. 8 days later, his body was discovered encased in ice. He himself had become an Iceman. The fifth man to die was his very good friend, Dieter Warnecke, who actually found his body. He then attended Simon's funeral. Right after the funeral, he suddenly dropped dead of a heart attack. And the sixth man to die was Dr. Konrad Spindler, who probably extensively analyzed the body more than anyone else over the years. He recently died at a young age of MS. Now, skeptics will say these are just natural coincidences, have nothing to do with the curse. But anomalists say that this possibly is an example of perhaps the spirit of Otzi acting from beyond the grave, angry that his entombment had been disturbed after 5,300 years of rest. As far as Otzi himself, there's a debate, of course, you may have heard, as to whether he died of natural causes or was murdered. If you wish to see Otzi, he is on display in a glass tomb kept at -6 degrees centigrade. All I would ask is if any of you go up there, do not touch his body. We don't want to take a chance losing any more of our audience members just in case there is indeed a curse in effect. But you've heard the evidence. It's your call. Is this a curse or coincidence? The Iceman's curse, a possibility for your consideration. Now it's time to ask if planet Earth will sometime in the future become Snowball Earth. A team of astrophysicists from the University of Colorado have adduced new information that our planet may have been turned into an actual titanic snowball twice in the distant past, 600 million years ago and then 750 million years ago. The cause, cosmic dust clouds that our solar system passes through periodically. These are humongous dust clouds, and what happens is as follows. As the entire solar system would pass through the dust cloud, dust particles would be captured by our planet's gravitation and overwhelm our atmosphere. They'd each act as a tiny mirror, so you have millions of these tiny mirrors reflecting impinging sunlight back into space, cooling our planet. As the sheets of ice would descend from the North Pole downward, they too would begin reflecting sunlight back into space, accelerating the cooling trend, and ultimately our entire planet would be encased in ice. And this lasts about 10 million years ago. It is actually amazing, since this occurred twice, that life was able to survive on our planet. But I mentioned before, we have what are called hypothermophiles, entities that actually thrive in the cold. And they may have actually perpetuated life on our planet during these two crucial periods. Now, the experts are saying that this could happen again. And of course, we don't know how many of these humongous dust clouds are out there. They're very hard to detect. We think we'd have lead time, though, as we began to enter them at the outer fringes of our solar system. How might we protect ourselves? And I suggest that we are the very first civilization that could counteract this effect. First of all, we might send up planes that would absorb the dust particles. We might send up maybe 1,000 satellites that would be electrified, that could attract the dust particles. Or perhaps 100-mile-long tethers released by satellite. I mentioned this is an approach suggested to diffuse the Van Allen radiation belts. Well, they might serve a similar purpose in trying to attract those dust particles. And finally, either as an adjunctive approach or in a substitute, we could use greenhouse gases. Now we have two sources, basically methane crystals in the oceans that could be melted. The methane would then bubble up through the oceans into the atmosphere. Methane is 20 times a potent greenhouse gas as CO2. We also have 400 gigatons of methane locked in the Arctic tundra. That's 400 billion tons. If we could release that into the atmosphere, it would cause a greenhouse effect to counteract the cooling of the dust clouds. But we can save ourselves in the future. And of course, we don't know when this will occur, so we've got to be prepared. Now, there is another problem, of course, and that is, as I indicate here, in the red dust particles, even if we were to usher out all the dust particles in our own atmosphere, beyond our atmosphere in space, these dust particles might still be reflecting light back from the sun, so we might experience at least an ice age, if not the snowball effect. So we still might have to rely on these greenhouse gases to counteract that. And of course, this brings up another question. Did other planets in our solar system similarly suffer a snowball effect, including broiling Venus? And one other idea I'd like to advance, that advanced ETs might actually have the ability to create artificial cosmic dust clouds to use as weapons of warfare, sort of climatological warfare, where they would direct such a dust cloud at a target planet that would kill off all the entities but retain the structures without destroying them. And of course, this would be especially attractive to entities who are used to a cold climate.